side and went bottom right corner. Bounces it in, and Duke goes up 3-0 with 3:20 to go here in the first quarter.
Duke started the second quarter with a quick goal, then attackman Joey Spallina got the Oranges scoring started and flashed his passing skills as well.
Cuts inside in the slot, passes to the near doorstep, English back to Spallina at X, now to Hiltz in front, shoots, scores! Tic-tac-toe, and the Orange are down by just 2 now. 10:36 left to go in the second quarter.
Each team added a score before SU's number 22 cemented that last week's one-goal performance was a fluke, and he can compete against the top teams.
Roa from straight away, gives off to the near side for Leo. Back down low to Spallina, who shoots and scores above goal line extended near side. Goes upstairs, and Syracuse cuts the deficit to just 1 now. 5-4, Blue Devils on top. 5:02 left to go in the second quarter.
After 2 more goals from Duke grad student Eric Molliver, SU trailed 7-5 at the half. The first quarter started rough for SU, and the third frame was not any better.
Aiden McGuire on the clear. Dodges right, lowers his shoulder into English, bulldozes through, step down shot, and scores. McGuire goes coast to coast, shoves English off him, takes a step back, goes bottom left corner, and puts it home. 8-4, 12:47 left to go in the third.
McGuire's second goal was just his 6th of the season and the third of a Duke 6-0 run that was capped off by yet another Molliver goal.
Blake and Delgado play catch top of the restraining line. McAdory feeds in front, Molliver cutting and scoring. Syracuse falls asleep for a second, and Molliver makes them pay for the 5th time today. Duke leads 11-4, 2 minutes to go in the third.
The Maryland transfer's 5th goal tied his career high. After its second quarter of the day without a score, midfielder Sam English ended Syracuse's 20-minute scoring drought.
Syracuse over the midfield line, English races downfield, shoots, scores! In transition, it's Sam English. Chaos into a goal. 11-5. Duke now leads. 30 seconds played in the fourth quarter.
That score from English means he's got at least a point in every game this season, but if Syracuse wanted to mount a comeback, somebody needed to step up.
Michael Leo races downfield in the near alley, gives off to Roa, cross crease pass, and a goal! Luke Roa rips it and makes it 11-6. Syracuse down to Duke with 13:20 left to go in the fourth quarter. The Orange offense is beginning to click.
It was a 5-goal game with 13 minutes left, which gave SU a chance to make it close, but the Orange went scoreless for 10 minutes until attackman Trey Deer cashed in with a fairly meaningless score.
Now to Hill's far side, cross-grain pass to Spallina, and on backdoor for Deer, who tucks it in. Formed a triangle that time in the for Syracuse, and a big-time goal for the Orange, 11-7. They now trail with 2:46 left to go in the fourth quarter.
So in the end, SU dug themselves too deep of a hole and dropped back-to-back games for the second time this season.
As the clock hits triple zeros, and the Orange fall to the number 12 Blue Devils, 11-7 here from Koskinen Stadium.
So there it is, just not good enough from Syracuse offensively. For the first time since the 2013 NCAA quarterfinal, the Orange were held scoreless in 2 quarters in the same game. They've got a big one coming up next against number 5 North Carolina a week from today. That's Saturday, April 26th in the Dome. McClurg Remodeling Countdown to Faceoff gets you started at 4:30 here on WAER before a 5 o'clock faceoff and the double overtime up until 8:30. Duke wins it 11-7 over Syracuse. Got some thank yous to hand out. Our producer Sam Reese, engineer Jish Sokolsky, Ben Chadwick on Radio Replay, and the WAER Sports Desk for their fantastic work, as always. It's time for the double overtime with Andrew Delapiana and Alex Burstein. They've got you up until 5:30 p.m. talking about this one. Just an ugly game offensively for Syracuse. They turned it over 18 times, and only half of those were caused turnovers. So I'm sure Andrew and Alex are ready to go. And you can get your voice heard by calling in 315-443-2011. Guys, Syracuse drops its second game in a row for the second time this season. Where's the panic meter at?
Oh, it's pretty high, Jake. Very, very high, I would say. And again, it comes down to Syracuse not starting the game the way they wanted to. We've talked about this all season long, Alex. This team cannot get off on the right foot to start games. It's unbelievable.
Gary Gait says after every game, we're going to try to play 60 minutes, but it hasn't actually happened. The Orange gave up 17 goals last week, but it was to Cornell. It felt okay. But giving up 11 goals to this Duke team in the fashion they did, not cutting it.
Defense wasn't good. Offense might have been even worse in this one. Only 7 goals. They had 2 scoreless frames in this entire contest. A whole lot of breakdown after Duke upset Syracuse 11-7 down in Durham, North Carolina. It's the double overtime here on WAER, and it starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
English charging at Cage, has an angle, shoots high, and connects with the back of the net. Stevens ahead for English. 4 seconds left. English has to run in. He skips it. 5-hole and scores. 1 second left. We're headed to overtime.
Passes behind the cage. A cutter in front, a behind the back, and a score. Syracuse strikes first against number 1. And Finn Thompson with the theatrics.
And the lows.
Fine, caught in a world of trouble. He turns it over. Duke on the fast break. 1-on-none. Zawana shoots high and scores high.
Right down Broadway to English. Rings it off the pipe and out. How many of those have we seen today? Devastation. Denver beats Syracuse 10-8 in the 2024 NCAA Tournament quarterfinal.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
How do you not get up for this game? Like, I understand Duke is more angry, but Syracuse has probably more to prove than Duke does.
This did not look like previous games against Notre Dame. You can tell Syracuse is a completely different team as it's been for the last 3 to 4 seasons. When you're giving up 20 turnovers, when less than half of your shots are on goal, you can't be considering yourself a top 5 team. You can't be considering yourself back.
And I was shocked that they dominated this much, but this just shows you the difference with this team. One of the reasons Syracuse held on to win this game is because when they went up 12-8 in the fourth quarter, they kept winning faceoffs and were able to take a minute 20 off the clock, which limited the possessions Hopkins had in the fourth period.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or by tweeting us at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
You know, at the beginning of the year, we were doing that. First quarters were big, and we executed really well. Then it was third quarters, and then we got better at third and first. So hopefully we can just put it all together for 60.
Well, that was Gary Gait on Thursday, saying Syracuse has to play a full 60 minutes to beat Duke today. That did not happen. Number 12 Duke takes down Syracuse 11-7 down in Durham. Welcome into the double overtime. Alex Burstein, Andrew Delapiana with you, taking you up till 5:30 on this Saturday afternoon. If you want to call in and we want to hear your thoughts from today's game, please do so. 315-443-2011 or shoot us a text at 315-556-3929. And Alex, let's start right there. Time and time again, this team cannot figure it out when the game starts. You even look at last year's game against Duke in the ACC semifinals. They were down 5-0 of a blink of an eye. This year, no different, down 4-0. And the slow starts. It happens every single game now.
I mean, you were listening in the opening. Our former sports talk director, Jordan Leonard, talking after that Duke game. What did he say? Syracuse probably has more to prove than Duke does. In today's game, Syracuse had one thing to prove. They can play 60 minutes of lacrosse against a good team. And what happened? They didn't do that. They played 20 minutes, 15 minutes of okay lacrosse, and they didn't score in 2 quarters of action?
Brutal.
It's crazy.
You look at that Cornell game last Saturday. Syracuse was down 5-2. That deficit grew as much as 6. They faced their largest deficit of the season today of 7. You go down to Notre Dame 3-2 after 1 quarter. That one's not too bad. But UVA, you allow 5 of the first 6 goals of the game. Manhattan, you didn't even score in the first quarter against that one. It finally came to a point where Syracuse did not start a game well, and it came back to bite them in the butt. And I feel like we were waiting for that the entire season, for them to start slow. They would come back in the late stages of the first half, early second half, but this one, it finally catches up to you in conference play.
And what you said, they were only down 3-2 to Notre Dame. They were only down 5-2.
Well, they were down 3-0 Notre Dame.
Exactly.
It
comes
about that one.
back because it's been building all season long for Syracuse. There's no way they were going to be able to do this every single game and come back, and it finally did happen. And this is not the time in the season that this should be happening for Syracuse. We talked about how the Orange have a lot more to prove because they only have one more game in the regular season, and you still have a glaring hole. It's not one thing, one player you have to fix. It's a root cause of this team. Like, this is the number one issue they were facing 5 weeks ago, and now on April 19th, you still have that? Come on. I think it's on the coaches.
I think so, too.
I mean, you're not preparing enough during the week because when they get out there and it's minute one, they're not ready.
It's funny, the fact that we bring this up, that it finally catches up to Syracuse. The last time they went scoreless in 2 quarters in a game was back in 2023 against Yale in the NCAA tournament. They ended up winning that game, which is unbelievable to say because of the fact we've seen in this game alone really proves that Syracuse, if they want to hang with the best of the best, you can't be doing this. It's really as simple as that. You only scored 4 goals in the first half against a team that allows about 11, 12 goals per game. Now, I get this is Duke's strong suit this season. Their offense hasn't been fantastic. But still, this is a team that allows 11, 12 goals per contest. You're getting held to 4 in the opening 30 minutes.
I'm going to correct you there for a second because you said 2023.
Yeah.
It was 2013.
2013?
2013.
Oh, my goodness.
Syracuse last went 2 quarters without scoring a goal in that game against Yale, which Syracuse, as you said, did win 7-6. It just doesn't happen in lacrosse. Lacrosse is not a sport where you don't score for whole quarters. Back a couple weeks ago when Syracuse was playing Notre Dame and there was a 30, 40-minute scoring drought for the Fighting Irish, that was like, what's happening? Because this doesn't happen. And it goes off to when Syracuse starts a game, haven't been playing well, and when they come out of a locker room, they're not playing well. And when you think about it, you have a whole week of practice. You should be ready for the first quarter. You have a whole time in the locker room to say, oh, what went wrong? What can we fix? You're going to come out hotter in the third, right?
You would think.
You would think.
It just wasn't the case
Doesn't
again.
happen.
Today, the rest of the season, it's been a trend Syracuse has kind of thrown at you all season long. Let's get into number-specific things of what we saw in that first quarter to kind of set the table a little bit more because Duke was absolutely the more physical team in that first quarter. I mean, the sheer dominance that Duke put on defensively. They had 4 caused turnovers. They have the most caused turnovers per game in the ACC entering today with just about 9. They get another great number in that one by causing 12, 13 caused turnovers in this one. Look, this is a really good Blue Devils defense, but the fact that Syracuse was getting pushed around in those opening 15 minutes, I mean, there were stretches where Peyton Anderson, he had 4 turnovers in this one. He had 2 in the first quarter alone. He was getting slapped from behind, getting trail checked from behind. Duke would go down and score on the other end. It was blink of an eye, it was 3-0.
This is a really good Duke defense, but it was supposed to be a really good Syracuse offense. And you'd think those two things would go and you kind of even each other out. But Duke's defense was just dominating them all game long. And you're talking about those caused turnovers. What worries me even more, yes, a team's going to have some caused turnovers, and that number, Duke had 9 today, has to go down if Syracuse is going to win games. But how about some of these sloppy plays out of Syracuse? Joey Spallina throwing a pass over the head in the second quarter. How about Peyton Anderson in the fourth quarter was standing at X, a perfect pass. I mean, this is like
it just went right through his stick.
It went through his stick, and it's because you can see he's not used to playing at X at the D1 level. He was getting ready, he was looking towards the goal, and he was already thinking about what he's doing next. The number one thing you have to do, make sure you catch the pass. I can't believe we're saying this in April. Make sure you catch the pass to avoid those turnovers. It didn't happen.
And I hate to harp on this freshman, but even when they were down 3-0, was in the closing stages of that first quarter, Anderson is wide open in front, and he's trying to go between his legs.
Well, you hate to.
What are we doing?
I mean,
what are we doing?
You have to hold him to the same standard if you're going to be putting him in these key situations. And yes, he earned the playing time, but the question has to become: if you have him in such a big role, he has to be ready to play in these ACC top 15 games at as high of a level as Joey Spallina, as Michael Leo, as Sammy English, as these guys who have experience. Because you're saying by putting him out there that he's ready for these big moments.
And it doesn't look like that at all.
It doesn't look like that. It looks like the opposite.
In the last 5 games, Syracuse has taken an average of 9.5 minutes to score their first goal, and it comes back to bite them once again. Was that the biggest thing for Syracuse in this loss today? We want to hear you. After Duke's 11-7 victory over Syracuse, call in 315-443-2011 or shoot us a text at 315-556-3929. And don't forget to interact with us on X at WAER Sports Talk, as well as our YouTube page as well. Alex Burstein and Andrew Delapiana taking you up till 5:30. And that's kind of where everything stems from, right? Is the uncomfortability of the offense in this game. Yes, we can kind of touch on that physical note a little bit more that Duke was playing with, but the best thing that you hit on was the sloppiness. Was someone always trying to make a play that wasn't there, whether it was a cross-field pass or forcing things inside the crease. You're trying to do too much. Like what we saw on that second goal for Syracuse, where we saw the beautiful ball movement, that is Syracuse lacrosse. That is what it's been all season long. Why do you go away from that?
It makes no sense, because when they're able to have those tic-tac-toe passes, you can get someone wide open. This is a good Syracuse team. Like, player-wise, this is one of the top 5 teams in the nation. I think many people will argue that. But when you're trying to just make this a one-man show, I mean, Spallina had a better game than he did last week against Cornell.
He was involved in the first 4 goals.
But the first quarter, Syracuse doesn't score. And what does Spallina do to start the second quarter?
He tried to go behind his back,
He tries
didn't
to
he?
go behind his back. He whizzes it past the post. Was it a horrible shot? No.
I think it hit Luke Roa, too, behind the net.
That's not how you score goals. You appreciate the effort, I guess, but there's no I in team.
No, I completely understand the point you're
I think a lot of
getting.
players on this team think there is right now.
Because there is no true Dodger on this team.
There isn't.
There isn't. It's as simple as that. They try to work through X. Yes, they can swing it around the horn and try to create a good opportunity like that. But when you have a defense that doesn't slide, we've seen this in the last couple of games. Cornell, they figured out the formula. Duke figured out the formula. And we heard it throughout the week from Gary Gait that they didn't slide, and it worked out. So what did Duke do? Oh, let's just watch the tape on Cornell and not. Oh, my God, it's genius.
It's almost like you don't have to make adjustments.
Oh, it's so smart, isn't it?
And what's scary is, I mean, Duke is number 12 in the nation, which is obviously good. But when you look in the grand scheme of things in lacrosse, there's 5-6 teams that are contending for a national title.
Duke's not one of them.
Duke's not one of them. If they're able to make those adjustments, what are teams going to do in 2 weeks in the NCAA tournament? They're going to shut down Syracuse's offense.
Yeah, Duke's had solid non-conference wins over Michigan, Richmond, but they've also lost to Princeton and Denver, Denver hasn't had a great season. Princeton, one of the top 5 teams in the country. This isn't a team, though, that jumps out on paper.
0-2 in ACC play before today.
They were risking following into an 0-3 spot, just like Virginia has at the bottom of the conference, where Duke needed to win this game, and Luke Burgess brought this up last night. He'll join us in just a little bit, that Duke had an extra emphasis in this game. They had a little bit more oomph in this ball game because they were basically fighting for their postseason lives today.
Which is, it's going to be very interesting to see what Luke says about the urgency out of the Syracuse team. But if that's your mindset, like, oh, we already are in into the ACC tournament, we have a big win, we're probably locked into the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, Duke is playing for their lives, basically. That is not the thought process you can be having at this point in the season. Really, at any point in the season. But when you're playing these top 15 foes, you have to be giving your 100% all 60 minutes. This is what we started the show with. It's not happening for all 60.
But why is that? That's the thing
I have no
we
idea.
can't figure out. Is
It's like we saw it at the start of the second quarter, and we commented this while we were looking at the game. First goal for Joey Spallina, the bench is going berserk. So
I mean, it made it 4-1.
It was
You
like
would've
a
thought,
little
oh my
league
God,
home run.
we
You
won the
would've thought it was a
World
game
Series.
winner.
What are we doing?
You have to be composed. You have to be a professional work environment for Syracuse right now. You have to say, okay, that's one goal, but we're not excited because you need 2, 3, 4 more to get back in this game. Not, oh my goodness, Joey Spallina just scored. We're back on track.
When Notre Dame was down 4-0 today and they scored their first goal, they went on to win that game. I didn't see them celebrating.
Exactly.
After even taking the lead against North Carolina.
And that's a winner's mentality. Has it been the greatest season for Notre Dame? No. But have they won back-to-back national
They're proving
championships?
themselves right now.
They know how to win in April, in May. It's showing why.
Notre Dame, a potential contender for that third national championship. Syracuse beat them. An interesting conversation we bring up a little bit later with Luke is the fact that this was a game on the road. Syracuse now falls to 2-2 away from home this season. He brought up this great take last night that I completely agree with, that if Syracuse plays at Notre Dame in that one, are they winning that game? I'm not 100% sure.
The weird thing is, like, you could hear over our WAER broadcast, when Syracuse scored, there were cheers. They're fans that travel to these games. It's not that they don't have the fans behind them. Maybe it's the natural grass that's tripping them up. I mean, our broadcasters, Gino and Griffin, were talking about it. It was a beautiful day for lacrosse. If you're a lacrosse player,
80s, yeah.
You are wishing you could play on a perfect grass field in April in 80-degree conditions. I guess unless you play at the JMA Wireless Dome.
Or it's always 70 and sunny, right? Yeah, sure. How long are that argument going to work out after Syracuse loses this one 11-7 to Duke? What are your thoughts from today's game? Where did the problem stem from? Is it the slow starts, Syracuse offense, defensive issues? Where did it begin for the Orange? Call in 315-443-2011 or text us at 315-556-3929. We want to hear your thoughts from today's game about this Orange loss. Now, we've kind of covered the Syracuse offensive end.
You know, before we move to
ahead.
the defense, I have a gripe.
Go ahead.
Because we look at the end of this game, and the last goal scored for Syracuse came from Trey Deer. And Trey Deer scored because it was the man up, and that's where he's been playing all season long.
He was just waiting on the back door.
Gary Gate, where is Trey Deer the other 55 minutes of the game? I know something must have happened. We know it's not injury because he's available for the game. Something must have happened, but he's a sophomore. He scored back-to-back 4-goal games, and now out of nowhere, the last 3-4 contests, he's been absent. There is probably no duo better on this team, and you can argue if there is. I don't think there's a duo better than Joey Spallina and Trey Deer.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Spallina to Deer.
Oh, they did.
You say it's because he's open on the doorpost. It's because he gets open and because Spallina knows where he is.
Oh yeah, they did play together in the summer.
Exactly.
So they do have a little bit of
know each other
chemistry in that
very
sense.
well. And if you're wanting to win games, you have to put your best players out there at the best times. Finn Thompson, we'll talk about him later, return today. He will be a part of that lineup. Peyton Anderson is a part of that lineup. But you need to have Trey Deer in for more than just the power plays.
I'm not so sure about that.
You think he should be? How? He's a proven goal scorer.
Because he's a backdoor merchant.
Okay, so what? That scores goal. How did
not all the time?
How did Duke score so many goals today? They had 3 or 4 like that.
Yeah, well, that's a different story. Syracuse defense was caught sleeping.
Okay, every single defense is going to be caught sleeping
when
you have someone as mobile as him and you have someone who can look like Joey Spallina for those passes.
But I really don't think Trey Deer is the guy I want on offense playing 6-on-6 just for the fact that he's standing in front of the crease. Like, he makes it a lot easier for defense to just make it a double team and then come back at the
double teaming, what does that mean?
Yeah, he could be open.
It means someone else is open.
Slide,
if you double team him, someone else is open.
Yeah, but you're forcing a longer shot from farther away.
So what? Syracuse can hit those shots. We saw today. Luke Roa can hit those. Sam English can.
Out of the what did he have? 13 shots against Cornell, and one of them went in the back of the net?
If you're Syracuse right now, you need to find ways to score goals. 7 goals today, 12 last week. Anything, you got to throw it into the picture. And the time to experiment is not in the ACC tournament.
Is the
not
penultimate game
in
of the regular season?
No, I'm saying this is the time.
Oh, it is the time.
They're going to
Okay.
get into the ACC tournament in a win or go home situation. You can't be testing that. And Syracuse into the ACC tournament, it seems there may be some tiebreakers, but almost certainly going to be playing in that. You have to figure out what your lineup is, and it seems like the offensive lineup is not set for this team.
But think about it, though. The fact that we're even having this conversation about a Syracuse offense that has been top 5 in the country the whole season, but you can't figure it out when you need to most, isn't that the point of bringing all this high talent into your program? Like a guy like Michael Leo, where was he today? No goals on 3 shots. Owen Hiltz, 1 goal today. Joey Spallina finally showed up. He had 5 points, only took 4 shots, but he was efficient. Where is everyone else on this offense when you need the most?
Well, Andrew, I'll ask you this. Where are those top offense numbers coming? It's coming from 24 goals against Jacksonville, 13 against Vermont, 18 against Howson, 14 against Harvard, 15 against Utah. All those games way in the past.
So you think this offense is fraudulent?
I don't know if it's fraudulent, but it's definitely not pieced together right now to be as good as it could be. There are so many good players. There are so many players who can score. Like, realistically, Trey Deer, Finn Thompson, Michael Leo, Joey Spallina, you can keep going. Payne Anderson, all guys who could on any given night give you a hat trick. And this team just scored 7 goals in 60 minutes. What?
They also had 18 turnovers. They only averaged 12.5 a game. That's the fewest in Division I, and they coughed it up 18 times.
Exactly. You have to at least get the shots off.
Not going to be a winning
I'd rather
formula.
a missed shot than a
turnover.
Up ball.
No, I completely agree with that.
Any coach will tell you that.
One thing I don't think we're kind of talking about enough here from this game specifically is Syracuse's offense usually feeds off his defense. This team likes to play a lot in transition, likes to get defenses out of sorts when running up and down the field. It was kind of the opposite today, where Duke was causing the turnovers, making Syracuse a little confused running back in transition, and I really think that's where Duke won this game today.
It is. You saw it from the first 2 minutes of the game because Duke didn't get a shot off on its first possession. Then what did they do? They caused a turnover, and McAdory ran down the field. It was a stop shot, but he had that fast break. And time again, Duke was the one in transition, and it was up to Jimmy McCool, who we'll talk about more probably next block, but had an iffy day at best. And you know what makes it really hard? When you have one-on-one matchups because your offense is struggling, coughing up the ball, and then Duke has these 3-4 player routes.
I'm telling you, Alex, one-on-one it might have been generous today, because watching Eric Maliver just dance all over the Syracuse defense, tying a career high with 5 goals. Did you not learn anything last week from C.J. Kirst? The guy is wide open on the back door. Michael Grace thinks he can cover 10 yards of ground in a span of a half a second. The ball always moves faster than the player. Yet the guy with the most goals on the team is sitting wide open, where I call the trade ear spot right on that back post that we alluded to. What are you doing?
Oliver had 1 assist against Syracuse with Maryland last year.
Yeah.
And they obviously, I guess, thought the same thing was going to happen.
You forget about him? He's on a different team now? Yeah, that's not how it works. Welcome to the age of the transfer portal. Guys can switch teams now, and they still make the same effort. But that was unbelievable.
Very.
The way that he was just walking down the alley. Guy's a great dodger. I'll give him that. But even that screenplay, it was the third quarter where Billy Dwan looked like Tom and Jerry trying to chase a tail.
Tewaaraton top 25 watch
That
list.
guy's on the Tewaaraton list? Oh, that's funny. Because that was one of the worst defensive plays I've ever seen in my life.
He was 2 steps behind
got
him.
caught on a pick and you can't go over it. The defenseman can go in the crease. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
The offensive guys can't, but the defenders can't. It's all right. I promise you, you won't get flagged for that. Just what are you doing going on? Oh my! It's like watching Syracuse basketball go under on a 3-point screen. It's just brutal. Just not my Tewaaraton, but go ahead.
It's not anyone's Tewaaraton, and I don't think anyone's arguing he's going to win.
No.
But the whole defense today, and the thing is, Billy Dwan was supposed to be anchoring this defense this year.
He's got the C on his chest. I wish
he
there.
hasn't really. I mean, he has had a couple good games, but you're not getting wowed by him like you were in seasons past.
And it's funny because he was so impressive in this Duke game a season ago. The guy had 4 caused turnovers in that victory of the Blue Devils. And like you said, he's going to be should have been the anchor of this defense. But even specifically just proved me today that maybe this defensive unit just doesn't have it as much as we thought they would.
What's interesting is coming into this season, the narrative with Syracuse was not the greatest goalie. Jimmy McCool's not a
It was the uncertainty.
It was the uncertainty at goalie. Defense is solid, but isn't great. But we'll resort back to the offense. The offense was supposed to be... I remember reading, this was months before the season, when Inside Lacrosse came out with their preseason rankings. And Syracuse, way back when, was, I believe, preseason number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why was because Syracuse can give up 13, 14 goals in a game and still win because this offense is capable of scoring 15, 16 goals a game. That number in front of me right now?
Yeah, it's in front of you.
7 goals for Syracuse.
And that 60-minute stretch.
You can't blame the defense when the offense is not doing its job. You just can't.
Neither side of the ball getting it done today in Duke's 11-7 victory over Syracuse. Again, we want to hear your thoughts on what went wrong for the Orange today. Call in 315-443-2011. Text us 315-556-3929. We got you up till 5:30 here on this Saturday afternoon. Alex Burstein and Andrew Delpiano with you here on the Double Overtime. But for this Syracuse team, I hate to look too big forward, so I want to keep things in-house here with this Duke game. My confidence level, just from seeing a game like this, what side of the ball can you take good away from this? Because I don't feel like I felt more confidence in this one from the offense, the defense, or even the face-off, to be honest. Johnny Mullen was okay today, but I'm not really sure, to be honest.
It's funny because the offense struggled, the defense struggled. Really the only part of the field where Syracuse was okay at was the middle line. I mean, 12 of 10 on faceoffs, not great, but that's a winning number. You should have more possession than Duke, which is not what it felt like at all. But I think that goes to show Syracuse is not turning possession into offense, which goes into the turnovers. It's crazy. It feels like we're going in circles because everything is related. The bad offense turned into bad defense. The mid faceoffs turned into bad offense. The defense is struggling. You can't have so many issues at the end of the regular season. You can't.
It's the number 7 team in the country.
It's the number 7 team in the country. I know the ACC is a gauntlet. Yeah. Everyone knows that. Yeah. But this is a game, even if this was a 1-goal game and Syracuse was in it the whole time, I think it would be a much different conversation right now. But it's just, they scored 3 goals in the fourth. If you take that out, Syracuse was outscored 11 to 4 through the first 3. Come on. Come on.
Let's talk big picture on the other side here of a quick break. Duke takes down Syracuse 11-7. We'll talk about what is next for this Orange team. You got one more regular season game left before the ACC tournament. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
We know you've got a lot to do in a day, and sometimes it may not be easy to tune in at exactly the right time to catch WAER News. But WAER News is always available, wherever and whenever you are, without a paywall. Visit our website to use our live stream, or catch up on local and national news, as well as podcasts on our website at WAER.org. Whether you're trying to stay up to date on current events, hoping to discover new music, or tuning in to our live Syracuse University sports coverage, there's something for everyone on WAER. We have your favorite programs from NPR and local content only available on 88.3. You can find a complete program schedule online at WAER.org.
To find what's waiting inside. The year of the cat.
British folk icon Al Stewart joins us, along with the Empty Pockets, on this week's Mountain Stage. Plus, we'll hear from Livingston Taylor, the Nighthawks, Christina Vane, and Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER.
Sloat with the stick in his left hand, takes the screen, dodges left, goes bottom right, corner, and scores! Blue Devils in command early.
Blue Devils in command early, Blue Devils in command in the middle, and Blue Devils in command at the end. Number 7, Syracuse falls 11-7 to number 12, Duke. Welcome back into the double overtime alongside Andrew Del Piana. My name is Alex Burstein. And Andrew, we've talked a lot about the game, and a lot can be said. But the question now for Syracuse becomes, they've gone back and forth all season. Contender, not contender, maybe contender. You beat Notre Dame, back to
Contender.
a contender. You lose to Cornell, maybe a contender.
Pretender.
Where is Syracuse now? I don't know.
I think they're back to that middle space where you're a pretender, or you could be a contender. Like I'm not 100% sure either way. I said this a couple of weeks ago, where this 4-game stretch, of course, we knew was going to be a gauntlet, and I had them beating Notre Dame, losing to Cornell, winning this game, losing to North Carolina.
Oh, you had lost to UNC.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I today definitely didn't help with that for me. I still think they're going to lose to North Carolina. Look, they are extremely lucky right now that Notre Dame kind of gave them a wake-up shot. Like, hey, you guys aren't the best in the ACC. This is a really competitive conference. And after going down 4-0 today, they came back and kicked them in the butt.
Yep.
And they won that game 12-6.
Notre Dame won, Syracuse lost, and if you think about how this was 2 weeks ago, you would never have guessed that. What do you think the position of Syracuse's future is right now? You can call in 315-443-2011 or text it at 315-556-3929. And Andrew, if you're Syracuse right now, I think you are very, very, very grateful that the ACC tournament exists, because with this results today, Syracuse is going to be playing in the ACC tournament.
Correct.
Because there is an 0-3 team. You think they're going to lose to UNC, which is certainly a possibility. Yeah. If they lose that game and there is no postseason tournament, there's a chance they don't make it.
I don't know about that.
Maybe not,
I
but
think
they have 2 more chances to prove themselves.
correct. If you lose out, if you lose North Carolina, you lose the semifinals of the ACC tournament, it's possible. It's possible, but I don't feel like that will be the case just from the RPI standpoint.
That's true. You have to remember, Syracuse does have the top strength, one of the top strength.
They have one of the best strength of schedules. It was Duke's first win over an RPI top 10 this season. Hopefully you heard the story at halftime, well done by Ryan Randoni, about that RPI and how that plays out similar to the net rankings in college basketball. But I really don't feel like even if Syracuse is one, they could be through 1 through 4 going down to Charlotte in 2 weeks now. And I wouldn't feel any different if they were a 1 seed or a 4 seed, to be completely honest.
Really?
This team,
you lose to Cornell. You're talking about a scenario where Syracuse could lose to Cornell, lose to Duke, lose to UNC, and then lose to one of either Duke, UNC, or Notre Dame. You think if they lose 4 in a row, the committee's going to say, "Okay, you're in"? You have to remember how small the men's lacrosse tournament is.
I was talking from the standpoint of entering that ACC tournament by losing 3 straight. Like I feel like Syracuse can still get it done just because of the parity within this conference. Like either night or every night, there's going to be either a team's best or a team's worst. I really think we saw one of Syracuse's worst performances of the season today in today's loss. But who knows what team's going to show up in the ACC tournament when it's playoff time?
What concerns me, Andrew, is that this is, yes, a very good ACC. But if you look at this ACC compared to the ACC of years past, Virginia, way down. Notre Dame from the past 2 years, down. Syracuse, okay, middle of the level. Duke, down. And then UNC is overperforming. But I don't know how they released the committee rankings during it was right before this game started about where teams are at right now. Syracuse was number 9, which is lower than their inside lacrosse ranking, which is the primary poll, lower than their coaches poll ranking. And now, if a loss to this, you have to imagine it knocks them at least 2-3 spots.
I think you go to around 11 or 12.
Or 12. You're in very dangerous
You're cutting it
territory.
close. But the good thing they have on their side, Alex, is the fact that you will play, North Carolina will be a top 5 team in the RPI next week. A team you see in the ACC semifinals will most likely be in that top 10. So the quality of opponents you have is going to be a massive advantage for Syracuse, where you can still pick up quality wins and prove to the committee that you are an NCAA tournament team. That's something that a different conference, like, I don't want to use the Big Ten as an example. The Ivy League's been pretty good this year. But in a conference where, like the ASUN, where you don't have a lot of chances to prove to the committee that you've beaten high-quality wins, the fact that you still have these opportunities in front of you, that's where I believe Syracuse can still sneak in, is from that standpoint alone, is they can prove to the committee that, hey, look at all these good teams we played in our conference this year. If we pick up 2-3 wins against these teams, why shouldn't we be in this field of 16?
Syracuse is very lucky they got some nail-biting ranked wins earlier in the season. What do you think? How are Syracuse's tournament chances looking right now? You can call in 315-443-2011. Text us at 315-556-3929, and always letting you comment on X and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. The problem is, and I know lacrosse, maybe more than any other NCAA sport, when selecting these teams is very numbers-based. We talked about the RPI. They like to see those strength of schedule numbers.
Of course they do.
But if you look strictly, and even if this isn't about making the tournament or not, the trajectory of this team, you want to look at your top offense players. Joey Spallina, I think, undoubtedly
He's your
has
number one.
taken a step back was good against Notre Dame, very underwhelming against Cornell. And yes, he shined at moments today, but against a non-top 10 team, you want to see at least 5 or 6 points out of Spallina.
But he's not a player where I look at a guy like CJ Kurz, and I look at that guy as someone who can take over a game.
That's what Joey Spallina is supposed to be.
That's
as your
what we
number one
thought
option.
he was going to be.
He's still, even with his assist numbers in some games, he's able to. I have not felt him take over a game many points this season other than Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And yes, that was amazing. Everyone's like, okay,
Joey Spallina's back. Yeah.
He's not a fraud. He's not a fraud. He's a great lacrosse
He's a great player.
But
when he wants to be.
Okay, so number one option, I'll say question mark.
Yep.
You go to the back. Goalkeeper Jimmy McCool. And I don't know. I've been on dots, double overtimes earlier this season, and I've said I'm not sold on Jimmy McCool. And today, decent save numbers. 15 saves on 45 shots, 20 of 6 were on goal. So did let in those 11 goals, but had more save. I just don't think he's a championship-winning goalie. They found out how to stop him or how to score on him.
Yeah, well, again, that was the number one offense in the country last week.
But this week,
it's an okay Duke.
And he still gave up double-digit goals.
But I really think he was the sole reason he kept Syracuse in this game. To be honest. He had 15 saves.
Yes, but if you look at the fourth quarter of this one, this was Duke playing much more relaxed, trying to take time off the clock. They had some shots, and Syracuse did hold them scoreless. But if you look at the first quarter alone, first 2 minutes, he looked great, had a great breakaway save, as we mentioned. But then after that, the first 30 minutes of this game, the only stops that Jimmy McCool were stopping were bouncers. Bounce shots. He was like, okay, positions.
You can't control how the other team shoots on goal.
No, you can't. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he was stopping those shots, but then bomb left, bomb right, top left. Players were curling around from X. Players were shooting from mid-range, blasting past Jimmy McCool.
I look at 11 goals allowed, and I say, hey, you gave your team a chance to come back in this game. That's how I looked at it, especially coming off a really tough performance against a Cornell team that is, again, the best offensive team in the country. They scored over 15 goals. They put on 17 last Saturday. Duke, not a great offensive team.
Right.
Your
That's
top
the key.
attack line.
That is the key.
But still,
not a great offensive team.
But it's an ACC opponent. They score 12 goals per game. Your job as a goaltender is to not allow 5-6 goals per game. It's to give your offense a chance to come back.
If Syracuse is a championship contending team, the standard should not be to have the goals against to be around the average. It should not be to give up 11, 12, 13. It
He's
should
his
be
first
we
year
are
as a
going
starter.
to it's the same thing as paying Anderson. If you are going to start a player at a D1 institution like Syracuse, they have to be held to the level of Syracuse lacrosse, of top-level Syracuse lacrosse. And I think a lot of the arguments this year have been, yes, he is a first-year starting goalkeeper, which is what you just said.
Because he is, yeah.
He is, but you have to remember, you are holding him to a standard. You should not be holding him to a first-year standard. You should be holding him to a championship standard, because what is Syracuse's goal this season?
I don't know anymore.
To win entering this season, it's to win a championship.
Yes.
And I'm not sure Jimmy McCool is getting you there. You have to be harsher on the hearts of your team. Joey Spallina at the front and Jimmy McCool at the back.
Look, I hate to break it to you, but none of them have gotten them there in 15 years. They haven't won a national championship since 09.
I'm aware, but that's part of the problem. Maybe you have to aim high. You can't even say aim higher, because Will Mark was one of the best goalkeepers in the nation. But last year when Will Mark was in goal, other than the Duke game in the ACC tournament, you really were not that nervous. When a shot is headed towards Jimmy McCool, how confident are you that he's going to stop it?
55% of the time.
55% of the time.
Yeah.
Half of shots.
That's a pretty good percentage if you're saving around 55-60% of your shots.
But you want your confidence to be higher than that. You want it to be 70%, and then
you want 70% save percentage?
I'm not saying a 70% save percentage. I'm saying you want to be confident that 70% of the time he's going to stop him. Sure, some are going to sneak in. That number might be closer to 55, 60.
Yeah.
You want to be confident in your goalkeeper. I don't feel that with Jimmy McCool.
I would appreciate if his defense also gave him a little bit of help around him.
Yes, the defense does need to be, but he needs to be able. They beat him high so much today, and then he realized that, and then he started overreaching high, and then they beat him low. And when they curled around, the most lethal shot today was when Duke got it on either the right post or the left post, and even for the first goal of the game, Moliver got it on the left post, and where did he beat McCool? That corner
side.
right
Yep.
there. And then they did it again in the third quarter. And again, and again, and again. And it just doesn't really work when you're playing Duke, and it's definitely not going to work when you're playing against the number 1, number 2, number 3 teams in the nation in the tournament. Are you confident in Jimmy McCool? You can call in and let us know, 315-443-2011, or text us at 315-556-3929 as an up-and-down performance from the goalkeeper in an 11-7 loss to Duke. You talk about the defense, and I guess we can bring these two in together.
Mm-hmm.
You think if the defense plays better today, McCool has a better game?
I think it usually starts with my mom used to have this great saying, I wasn't a net, but my sister played goalie. It has to get through the 10, 11 players in front of you when you're playing soccer. So I always like to use that analogy where you have to get a little bit of help from the people in front of you if you still want to be a good goaltender. Great goaltenders are defined as players that make saves when you're not supposed to. I look at Jimmy McCool as a goaltender that makes saves most of the time and when he should make the saves. Will Mark, of course, last year was that goaltender that would make ridiculous saves. But at the same time, your highlighting player should not be your goaltender, right? You think of phenomenal players that have come through this program, and I'll more so keep it to at least the last couple of years specifically. Okay. Where have those players come from? They've come from the offensive side. And you need that a lot more to win a national championship than your defense for the standard of Syracuse.
I agree with you. This is what I was saying. Syracuse was supposed to be so good because of the offense, but when your offense isn't performing, when they are scoring, 7 goals, we have to say this is an anomaly.
Of course it is.
This is the tied for the lowest under Gary Gait.
Mm-hmm.
But when that does happen, because there's always going to be fluke games on offense.
You always have those ifs. Yeah.
You have to have the defense and the goalie as the backup. It can't be A+ offense expectation and then B-, B+. Syracuse's GPA is all over the place right now because
you got the
stars
grading
on the curve.
You're
grading on the curve.
You got the stars helping them out, and then you got the lower students
exactly
on the bottom. It's got to weigh out somewhere. I get where you're coming from.
In the middle of the field, you have Mullen, who's solid A student.
Yeah.
He's at the median there, and then I don't know. It's like you have to be solid throughout, and it starts with recruiting, and it starts with having a solid team all around. It starts with the coaching, because you have to be able to realize that it's not just your offense, it's your defense as well. But that's not the case this season. Syracuse's offense is the better unit. I think anyone will argue that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to find a way to tune up your defense enough from Monday to Friday so that they can compete with any offense they're faced with.
And that's the thing. I feel like we've heard a lot from this year from John O'Derna, the defensive coordinator, that he's always got a plan in place. Don't worry about it. Gary Gate never gives us anything too specific on Thursday at media availability. Coach O's always got a plan. Don't worry about it. We got a plan to slow down C.J. Kurse. That did not happen last week. What was the plan to stop? What was the plan to stop Eric Maliver? Stand 15 yards away from him? Where is your game plan coming from throughout the week to try to make this happen? Because I'm not seeing it.
Especially because in college lacrosse, where it's very top-heavy, not just with the teams, but with the players as well.
And think about, too, we haven't even talked about the difference from last year's Duke team to this year's team was substantially easier.
This was supposed to be a Duke team that is not good, that is on the edge of an NCAA tournament berth after last year because graduating 200-plus points, and then this happened.
You held Josh Shawada, Brennan O'Neill, and Dyson Williams to 4 goals in the Dome last year. Oh, what happened when they went outside the Dome? Oh, they scored 18. Well, there goes. There's that narrative back up again. But still, they graduated an attack line that scored over 200 points last year. They're all playing professional lacrosse. Gary Gates said, well, thankful we don't have to play them again. It didn't matter. It didn't matter at all today. It looked like you were playing those 3 out there.
I think it's funny because the narrative with why this Syracuse offense is so good is because, Joey Spallina and Michael Leo and Sammy English have had years to grow together. And they're now, it's like those guys in the entire junior class are like, all gelled up. Well, this is a much different looking Duke team, and they're able to
still looked a lot better than you did today.
In year one, where's the difference there? Where is Syracuse? I don't know. Is it the coaching? Is it development? Is it recruiting? There's some level that Syracuse is missing right now, and it shows up throughout the season.
Also, John Danowski is one of the greatest lacrosse coaches of all time. So I think for the most part, he can make anything work.
Yeah, but if you want to compete for championships, this isn't basketball where there's one and dones. This isn't football where half the players are transferring. You're able to develop players. You have to be able to develop stars. That hasn't been happening.
Yeah, and Gary Gate just hasn't done that at the level of some of the other coaches that are here in the ACC. You look at guys like Kevin Corrigan, who have been there for 37 years. John Danowski, a guy who's been there forever at Duke. Is it a longevity thing? I'm not too sure, but in that area, that's where I'm looking at a huge difference in the coaching landscape. You can recruit all the guys you want and tell them all about the program, but if you don't have the right guy leading you, then what's the whole point?
Andrew and I have a lot of questions, some answers, but a lot of questions, and someone who can hopefully answer a few of them is our reporter at today's game, Luke Burgess. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, Luke is going to talk with us from Durham. We'll be back in just a second. You're listening to the Double Overtime right here on WAER.
We hope you're enjoying today's game on WAER, but before we went on the air, more than a dozen of us prepared content, game notes, set up technical equipment, and practiced. These opportunities are so important for our professional development, calling the games, hosting, engineering, producing broadcasts, and digital content. But we can only do this with your help. If you're an alum who had the same experiences, or just a listener enjoying the game, help us out with a donation at waer.org and click donate.
We know you've got a lot to do in a day, and sometimes it may not be easy to tune in at exactly the right time to catch WAER News. But WAER News is always available, wherever and whenever you are, without a paywall. Visit our website to use our live stream, or catch up on local and national news, as well as podcasts on our website at waer.org. Whether you're trying to stay up to date on current events, hoping to discover new music, or tuning in to our live Syracuse University sports coverage, there's something for everyone on WAER. We have your favorite programs from NPR and local content only available on 88.3. You can find a complete program schedule online at WAER.org.
Roa cuts inside in the slot, passes to the near doorstep English, back to Splina at X, now to Hiltz in front, shoots, scores! Tic-tac-toe!
Well, Syracuse men's lacrosse is heading out of Durham with an 11-7 loss today at Koskinen Stadium. Alex Burstein and Andrew Del Piano back with you on the double overtime, taking you up till 5:30. And we are now joined from our talk reporter from today's game down in Durham, Luke Burgess. Luke, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. A little upset that Syracuse lost this game, but let's dive right in. If you have questions for Luke about this ball game, call in 315-443-2011 or text us at 315-556-3929. We've been kind of going back and forth, Luke, towards the end of the last segment where we talked about Gary Gait and his kind of role in the last couple of games for Syracuse. But the big thing was the slow starts we hit on right off the top. Did he have any sort of answer again after another slow start again today?
Well, actually, Andrew, no, he didn't.
Oh,
he
big
was
surprise.
Asked about,
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot I want to get into. I've been listening to you guys over probably the past 20 minutes or so, so I've been hearing what you've been talking about. But in terms of the slow starts, yeah, I mean, he said that they just need to execute better. And I really think that is what, in essence, this game comes down to. I know that there's a lot to be talked about the scape of the ACC or whatever, and you guys have touched on that a lot. But at the end of the day, I really think this game comes down to some razor-thin margins. I mean, both teams had bad stretches. Both teams had good stretches. Syracuse just had more bad stretches, and they did not play clean lacrosse today, and I think that's really what you sum this loss up to. That's what they talked about all week, is just you had to have a better start, and then the team didn't execute. It's that simple. It's not that the plan wasn't in place. It's that you just didn't show up to the level that you need to, and obviously that's concerning.
It's simple, I guess, to just execute, but we've all covered this team the whole year, and it seems like after every game when he's asked this question, he says to execute. Is that really like an acceptable answer to how you're going to turn things around? Oh, we're just going to try to play better?
Well, I mean, I watched the game too, and I don't think you can say anything else, to be honest with you. It started really from the opening few minutes where on the offensive side, I actually thought the defense played really well in the first stretch of the game when they went down early on. I think that they played solid, and more of the flaws were coming on the offense, not giving them anything where the defense was having to move back in transition a lot and make some type of play or some type of slide with basically a moment's notice. The offense, though, came out really sluggish. No off-ball movement. I thought right off the jump, there just wasn't a lot going on the other side of the field. I thought Owen Hiltz looked uncharacteristic today. Apparently there's a little bit of talk that he might be hurt to some type of degree. I think we'll get some clarity on that. Gary Gait said that he expects him to practice this week, but he did not look like himself. Michael Leo didn't really look like himself, and those guys were quiet at the start. They just did not look ready to play. Now, I think guys who looked ready to play, Peyton Anderson, Joey Spolina, absolutely were
Peyton
both
Anderson?
phenomenal. Oh, yeah, I thought he came ready to play
Are you
today.
serious?
I mean, he made some mistakes.
He had
but
4 turnovers.
Yeah, ADP. Not all of those were his fault, my guy.
Oh, the one where it went right through his stick behind the net, that's not his fault?
I mean, I'm not exactly. What part of the game are you referencing from? We don't need to get into exactly which turnover was which, just because I'm not exactly sure which one you're talking about. But
fourth
I mean,
quarter.
he was put in some tough spots too. There was a pass down low to him late in the game. Sam English threw a pass to him from the midfield, and it was tossed straight in between his legs. I still think he came ready to play today offensively. I'm not talking as much about his ball movement, but he was ready to go. Like he was setting up the plays the correct way. He was getting out to Spolina, making sure that the ball was moved around well. But like I said, I just thought the off-ball movement was disappointing. And then as the game progressed, it turned more to the defense, where the defense was just not as hungry for ground balls as Duke was in the midfield and on the Duke's offense as well. That's really like it's what it came down to. When there were loose balls, Duke was more physical. They were more ready to go, and they were picking up ground balls. And Syracuse made mistakes. Duke capitalized on them. Syracuse just didn't capitalize on Duke's mistakes.
Were those turnovers just that they more? I mean, at times it looked like a football game.
The
like
physicality from Duke was unbelievable in this game,
Syracuse,
Luke.
and Syracuse would just cough it up. Was Syracuse just not ready for that?
Well, they were trying to set, because Duke scored early, and this is why I think the slow starts are really a huge issue, and it's not something that you want to talk about all the time, because at some point you kind of start to beat the point dead, but I think that because Syracuse had to play off of face-offs, gain possession, and set up the offense, I mean, that's just not where this team thrives. This team is always going to do its best when they get a couple of early stops, and then they can score some goals in transition and get the sideline going a little bit, get the guys on the field hyped up and into it, because they're not a big team. I mean, I think most of the time you're seeing offenses that are a lot bigger on the other side. They don't have guys who are just going to – they're not pure downhill dodgers like you saw from a Dyson Williams or a Brennan O'Neill, right? If you talk about Duke teams of past – they don't really have that. I mean, the ball movement is everything for this offense. And when they finally got going and had that little 4-goal run at the start of the second quarter, it was all because they were being proactive. They were just dictating play on their own terms. They weren't waiting for the defense to miss on a slide and then try and dodge inside and score. I mean, this team is just not going to thrive like that. I mean, obviously these guys can score that way. They're world-class lacrosse players, but that's not going to be a consistent enough form of offense to win these type of games. You just have to have those little finesse plays. I mean, the stuff that they get praised for early in non-conference games, where you're scoring crazy between-the-legs goals or, insane ball movement around the horn, and then you score some wild goal off of a one-timer. That is how this offense is going to thrive. I mean, there's not really much else to say. If they're not doing that, they're not going to have success.
But Luke, can that style of play win you games in May?
Well, I mean, that's kind of been the conversation, right, Alex? I mean, it is. It is something to think about.
It's just like Joey Spallina started off the second we talked about with the behind-the-back pass. The one goal that wowed me from Syracuse today was when it went tic-tac-toe and Owen Hiltz got it wide in front.
That second goal, yeah.
That was good, solid lacrosse. I guess you could say that's finesse, but that was just passing the ball well.
Yeah, but it's the type of movement where you're not trying to set it up. Duke scored a lot of its goals today where they give it to a guy, move off of a screen, a nice little swim dodge or something inside. You get a guy to take one step the wrong way, and then they can finish on the doorstep. But that's not the type of players that Syracuse has on its offense.
No, not even
those
close.
Guys,
yeah.
That's not the MO that they try to recruit here. And I really do think that if it's executed right, it can work. But you just have to get to it quickly, and that has been the issue. I mean, I don't think that there's any reason that this can't be the best offense in the country in terms of Syracuse, and I really mean that. I mean, they have all the pieces to do it. It's just about getting to it early on and making sure that you get into that groove. It can't wait until the second quarter, but it's reliant on two things. It's reliant on you winning a lot of faceoffs right off the jump. That's non-negotiable. You have to have the ball, and if you don't have the ball early, then your goalie and the defense, they have to play like dogs and get you some chances in transition, because that's how the offense is going to thrive. You can't give up the first 3 goals of the game and expect to win on a consistent basis. It's just not going to work with the way that this offense is designed.
Luke, while we're on this topic of offense, I know Trey Deer had the goal, but he's only been part of this man-up offense. And it seems like people have kind of stopped asking about it because it kind of seems that's what's happening. How did you see how he looks on the side? Is he mad about this? What's kind of the mood around that?
I think his body language is pretty neutral. I mean, Gary said that it was just a matchup thing. That was kind of the original explanation when it started. I believe, what was that now? The Virginia game was the first game where we saw Peyton Anderson kind of take over in Deer's spot. And even today they had Tyler Cordes in there over Trey Deer with Finn Thompson back. Finn Thompson was on the second line because they were trying to mix him in a little bit. I think this was the first game he's played since Utah, which was on March 1st. So that's been quite some time that he's been out, and I think they're just trying to kind of ease him back into it today. But even so, Trey Deer, with that extra spot open up top, he wasn't out there. And I don't know if it's just a matchup decision. Who knows what could be going on behind the scenes. I'm not implying that anything is going on behind the scenes, but it could be body language in practice. I don't know. Obviously, the way guys practice has something to do with it, so you have to think there's some type of reason because he obviously doesn't match up poorly against every single team, right? So I don't know. I think Trey Deer is obviously an asset to this team, but he's also not a guy who's going to be a game changer. All those guys are on the field. So if he was going to make a serious impact that would have swung this game the other way today, I'm fully confident that he would be out there. But in terms of his body language, no. I mean, I think he looks normal.
I mean, he had 4 goals in back-to-back games. That's
that's
a difference maker.
Against who?
4 goals.
Colgate and Manhattan?
Hey, 4 goals is 4 goals.
Sure. Luke Burgess joining us from Durham following Duke's 11-7 victory over Syracuse, a top 10 win for the Blue Devils. Alex Burstein and Andrew Delpiana taking you up till 5:30. If you have a question for Luke from today's game, call in at 315-443-2011 or text us. Our line is open at 315-556-3929. And Luke, I kind of want to do a hard 180 here, more so about the defensive side of things and Jimmy McCool. Alex and I were kind of arguing before you came on the air. Do you think his play was good enough today to give Syracuse a chance to win this one?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I really think Jimmy McCool was actually pretty good today. I was
interesting.
I mean, seeing it live, this defense let him down so much.
Oh,
Andrew.
boy, did they.
I mean, he was put in so many tough spots. The first 2 goals of the game, the first one was a perfect screen from Duke. Nothing he could have done about that. The second goal, he was just completely left one-on-one. It was a fantastic shot. I mean, there's nothing you can do. If guys are in the right position in an ACC top 15 team, I mean, we could talk all about how Duke's not as good as they normally are. Mm-hmm. They're still a good team. I mean, there's a lot of talented guys on the field. And if they get an open shot like that and sting it, they're going to score. That's the reality of the situation. And then after that, I just thought like I told you before, I thought the defense played its best at the beginning of the game, and they got worse. And so I think after that, his defense was just giving far too many open opportunities. Duke did a great job, though. I will give them credit, because I don't want to act like this is I mean, I know what you said about this being one of the worst games of the season. Mm-hmm. I still think that Harvard game was worse, personally. I thought they looked less ready to play in that game. I thought Duke just gave them a hell of an effort today, and they didn't really know what to do with the physicality. But Duke did a great, great job of making them slide. I mean, they forced that defense to slide so much, and Duke wasn't doing it nearly as much. That's another point on the Syracuse offense, but I thought that Syracuse did a pretty good job of keeping up with it for a while, but then they just started to get overwhelmed because Duke's ball movement was really good, and they executed a ton of great screens. I can't tell you how many more times Duke executed a perfect screen today than Syracuse did, and I think, once again, that just goes back to them being ready for this game to be physical, which I think Syracuse has kind of always struggled with physical games under Gary Gate, so I don't know, if that's part of the MO of this team, the way that they play, or if it's just the personnel in the field. Who knows? It's hard to say with something like that. But
I mean, you talked about it, Luke. This team is smaller than a lot of these other opponents.
I mean, Eric Maliver, one-on-one with a short stick wide huddle. I wonder who's going to win that matchup, Luke.
Well,
you let me know.
No,
yeah.
I mean, Wyatt Huddle's a great player.
Oh, he is, but
he
shouldn't be
really,
guarding one of
really
the biggest attackers on the team.
Right, yeah. I mean, and, I think the thing is, as well, is when you have the offense, or the defense, rather, sliding this much, it is a lot easier to isolate the short stick. Mm-hmm. And so they got a lot of good matchups. They got the matchups that they wanted. But, I mean, still, credit to the Syracuse defense. There were times, especially in that fourth quarter, when they were trying to come back and close it out. The defense can step up. And I still didn't think that they were really executing to the best of their ability in that fourth quarter either. Jimmy McCool made some really damn good saves in that fourth quarter. And I think that's exactly why I say that he played well enough today. Because, I mean, this game could have been 15-7, to be quite honest with you. But McCool stepped up in some big moments, and the defense was challenged today. They just didn't meet that challenge. I really think it's as simple as them not being ready to play, and Duke did a great job of swinging back momentum. Every single time Syracuse went on a bit of a run, Duke counterpunched. And Syracuse didn't help its cause either. I mean, they certainly could have been much better in those situations at holding momentum, but I think you got to give credit to Duke today for a phenomenal win. Don't forget, and we talked about this last night. I talked with Sam and Jared on Sports Night last night about how desperate Duke was going to be in this game, because if they lose today, then they're potentially in contention for missing the ACC tournament with a loss next week to Virginia. And Virginia is now 0-3, and Duke gets its first win, so Duke obviously likely not going to miss the ACC tournament. I think actually they probably secured their place.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, there's a leaf blower going on.
That's annoying.
Yeah, can you hear that?
Yeah, just loud and clear.
Yeah, I think hopefully he moves along here. Either way, though, that kind of gets in your way, your train of thought a little bit. But I still thought like there were a lot of fine margins in this game. I said that last night too, that it was going to be a really close, tight game. Duke was going to give you their best effort, and I really feel like they did.
Another point I kind of want to bring up that you talked about last night. What level of importance did it feel, at least for Syracuse, that this game was away from home? I know you brought up the great point last night about that Notre Dame game being at home. They win that one. Do you think the level of Syracuse being on the road had any difference in this one?
Yeah, I think it did. I really do. I think
like
this
a
game would have
perfect
been
day,
different
though.
in the Dome.
It was beautiful.
I don't.
Yeah.
It's weird because it wasn't like it was that loud. I mean, it was loud. Don't get me wrong. By the way, a heck of a fan base showing up
the
today.
Koskinen
For both
crazies.
sides.
You could hear the goals for Syracuse.
I mean, yeah, that was amazing. Like, it was really, really good. The atmosphere here was great. It was packed. The front bleacher, which is beneath the booth that I'm in right now, was absolutely full. Apart from like the last Syracuse section was like maybe 70% full. And then on the far side, they've got counting them right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of bleachers, and those were probably 60% full. So I mean, it was pretty close to a sellout, and they certainly made you feel it. But I just thought that Duke drew a lot of energy from its fans. Not necessarily that it was loud or an uncomfortable atmosphere to play in, but I mean, Duke was celebrating with the fans when they scored. Every single time they would run over to the main fan section, and they were, hyping up the fans. And, there were Let's Go Orange chants, too. I think Syracuse felt the support, but I think playing in the Dome is such an advantage. When you have let's be honest. If this game was in the Dome, there probably would have been like 11,000 people there again. Yeah. With the way that the city supports this team every single week. I mean, the fans are tremendous. I think probably the best in the nation. And I think when you have that on your side, when you get momentum, it's easier to keep it. Because as soon as Duke's fans started getting loud, it was a little bit harder. Even if you're not necessarily, like, you can't hear, you can't communicate in the same way, if that's not a factor, it still is something when you have the fans behind you. I think it just gives you that extra little bit of juice that you might need to, win that ground ball or that turnover battle or whatever, and it wasn't quite there today.
It's just hard to believe that this is a top 10 team in the nation if they can't deal with the element of fans. How are you going to...
I'm not saying they can't deal with it. Alex, my whole point was that it didn't change the game necessarily.
They
but
still would have lost this
game.
game.
Yeah, I think they still would have lost this game in the Dome probably, but it just gave Duke a little bit of an edge. Like, they were really playing for their fans today. I'm not saying that the fans made the impact. I'm saying that the fans gave Duke the little bit of boost that they might have needed to go a little bit harder in this game because they were so behind their team. And same thing for Syracuse. It's just when you're at home, it's not like the offense isn't going to be able to communicate, but they just give you that extra boost to just go a little bit harder.
Last one we got you, Luke, before we let you go. What do you think this team is going next season? For the rest of this season with North Carolina, ACC semis. Let's hear it, my friend.
Yeah, man. I said it last night, and I got to stick to my guns. I do think that if you win this game, you're back in kind of the national championship conversation in terms of, you really have a shot. And if you lose, you're still a good team. Syracuse is still a great team, but they're kind of in that pretender category. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone right now in the lacrosse world is legitimately taking Syracuse seriously for the national championship. I just don't think that's a conversation anyone is having about this is the team that you're going to have to watch out for on Memorial Day weekend. And when you go into the season as preseason number 2, that's the expectation. So, I think North Carolina is going to be a tough game, but I do believe the Dome can have a real factor in Syracuse playing in that game, potentially pulling out a great late-season win. But Gary Gate said it all throughout the press conference. I don't think we've talked about this enough. All their opportunities in front of them. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. They have a really tough schedule, and they've played pretty well. And I don't think that there's any reason to believe that if they turn it on here at the end of the season and go on some type of run, they can't make some noise. But I certainly think that the lacrosse world is not looking at Syracuse as the pinnacle of success right now.
Nope, Gary Gate and I at least agree on that point, so we got that going for us. Good stuff today, Luke. Really appreciate you taking some time, my friend. Go enjoy some cookout.
Guys.
What is that? Is that the fast food spot down there?
They do have cookout down here.
All right,
I haven't
well,
had that.
yeah,
I
would.
it's a beautiful day, though. My goodness.
Yeah, if you want to go hit the links after this, my friend.
I wish I could, Andrew.
Go ahead, be my friend. But again, Luke, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. That was our reporter Luke Burgess joining us from Durham after the Blue Devils take down the Orange 11-7. Now it's time for our favorite segment with just about 5 minutes left in our program. It is time for our final words, and I will hand it off to Alex Burstein to start things off. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know you talked about wanting to be positive here at the end of the show.
Well, you know me. I'm an optimistic guy.
Luke also a little bit positive. But I think my final word here has to be this isn't the last time a slow start is going to kill SU. Because if this had happened 1 or 2 weeks in a row, it'd be okay. Maybe they can turn it around. But this entire second half of the season, where it's been this gauntlet of really hard teams, Syracuse has time and time again started slow, and they were able to work it out, able to pull out some wins, some big wins against Notre Dame. But today it showed when you start really slow, when you score 0 goals in the first quarter, it is really hard to get that momentum back in the second, third, and fourth. And today also showed it's not only a first quarter problem, but it's also a third quarter problem for the Orange, as they scored 0 in both the first and the third. And Luke said it, there's opportunity ahead. There's a lot of big games. But Syracuse does not have the room for error that they are so used to having, because you lose to UNC, things are going to drop off in the rankings. You lose in the ACC tournament, your seeding is going to drop off in the NCAA tournament, and you lose in the NCAA tournament, and the season is over. But Syracuse has not done enough in the past 4 or 5 games to prove that they can pull off win after win despite these slow starts, and because of that, it's going to bite Syracuse in these next few weeks.
I look at this loss as similar to what the Harvard game was, where Syracuse, they got smacked in their own building, but look what they did in the next 5-6 games. The longest win streak since 2017. I really feel like this could be the setback that turns around this season once more. I already saw it again earlier this year when you have a bad loss and how this team has responded, and I really feel that's going to be a case again this year. Look, the safety net is gone. It's basically, if you don't win the next couple of games, you might miss the NCAA tournament. Once you get in, of course, it's one and done. I really think this will be the loss that can turn around Syracuse's season, because you have all the opportunity in front of you now to get those big wins. You don't have that loss in your back pocket that you can fall back on. I believe now from this point on, it's tournament mentality for Syracuse. And look, they haven't gotten it done in the last couple of years. But I think with the junior class in front of them, with the talent they still have in this roster, it is possible for this team to still make a deep run, just on the fact that they can use this experience now to push them later down the line, and I just feel like they could get it done. I'm just optimistic about it.
I know we have to go, but quickly I'm just going to say, you talked about that Harvard game. The narrative after that was, oh, this is the turnaround that Syracuse needs to get the season
going. And then they rattled off their most wins.
You can't have 2 turnarounds in a season.
Why not?
That's a lot of momentum to be switching, especially with 1 game left in the regular season.
I think they can do it, my friend. And the next chance to do so is next Saturday at 5 o'clock against number 5 North Carolina. McClure Remodeling Countdown to Face-Off gets you started at 4:30 with Face-Off set for 5. That one goes, the double overtime goes until 8:30. A couple of thank yous to hand out. Our producer, John Baccio, our engineer, Nico Horning, our reporter, Luke Burgess, joining us, and the Triple J's on the talk desk, Jack DiNapoli, Jason Stalakis, and Josh Solomon. Thanks so much, fellas. Couldn't have done this broadcast without you. Well, that'll do it from our Ulstrom Avenue studios. Duke takes down Syracuse 11-7 down in Durham. For Alex Burstein, Andrew Del Piana saying so long, Syracuse. Have a good night.